What's up, everyone? Thomas here with ForReel Movie News and Reviews. And it is once again time to hop into another film festival. This time around, it is Raindance Film Festival. And I have one of my favorite friends on the line to discuss what we are looking forward to at this festival from the UK. Taylor Baker from Drinking the Movies is joining me. Hey, Taylor, what's up?
Hey man, thanks for having me again. I thought I got out of the film festival car after VIF when I got out of your car. Turns out that was a lie. And we're hopping on a plane, going to the UK through our television sets.
Through our television sets. This is true. So it's very weird bouncing back and forth between the virtual platform and the in-person experience. If you've subscribed to our YouTube channels, you know we were able to be in person for the Vancouver International Film Festival, which was a delight. But now we're back to kind of a virtual setup, and I guess we're just kind of getting familiar with both outlets and both types of coverage.
Yeah, we're adjusting to this new normal, quote unquote, still. But it is definitely more convenient for you and I to sit at home than take a plane trip to the UK with our schedules.
I would love to take a trip to the UK one of these days, maybe. But for now, I'm very fortunate to be able to cover this festival here from the Pacific Northwest with you virtually.
Me too.
Yeah. So Raindance goes. It's a festival in the UK, and it happens from
I think November 6th is the end, and it starts tomorrow for you and I, October 27th.
Yeah, so November 27th to October 27th to November 6th.
And I think if anyone's unfamiliar with it, it's kind of like a slam dance situation where you have Sundance beforehand and then some more independent titles that didn't get play show up. London Film Festival is happening now or ending right now, and kind of the subsequent thing that happens right after is Raindance.
Right. And it's really cool to be able to kind of be a part of these independent films, and be able to screen these films that are being introduced to the UK, and actually many of them have access here in the United States, and so some of them that we'll be talking about here are actually accessible here in the States. So
and as you say your titles, I'll try to look them up on Letterboxd and let everybody know if they can just watch them from the comfort of their home.
I do appreciate that. So let's just talk about a couple that we're most excited about, and I will start with you here. What's one of the films you're most excited about at Raindance?
The film I'm most pleased to be watching, I with film festivals like this, you're not really like stoked in the same way that you were to go see Drive My Car or Red Rocket or anything that when we were at VIF with these giant titles, but it's more like I'm pleased to get the opportunity to with some films. So the first one of which is Bestsellers, which has Audrey Plaza, who is incredibly charming, with Michael Caine, who's incredibly charming. I think this film's been out for a few months here in America, but I haven't had time for it. And if I'm correct, I believe it is a directorial debut as well, from filmmaker Lena Rosler. So it's nice to get in not only a directorial debut, but a charming film from two charming co-stars that I haven't had time for yet.
Yeah, in their own respects, when Michael Caine is involved with the project, I'm interested. When Aubrey Plaza is involved with the film, I'm very interested. And so they're two. I think that I don't associate those two with like having very similar projects, but put them together, and I'm interested. Bestsellers is certainly on my radar. As something that I'm interested in seeing. It is the opening film of the festival, so that's kind of a big honor.
It happens tomorrow night.
Yeah, exactly. Well, tomorrow night for us right now. I do want to watch that film, and like you said, Taylor, it has been available here in the States for a few months, and so those here in the United States can rent it. I'm pretty sure it's available.
Yeah, you can rent platforms. It, buy it, and on iTunes, I think you can even get a 4K copy.
Yeah, for sure. So that is that's a good one to point out.
What is your most anticipated title?
The Man with the Answers. I guess this is a good time to talk about that one because I was very interested in this movie as kind of a feel good kind of film and an interesting road trip film. I think this year has been filled with interesting road trip films. And I kind of wondered where this would place in that. And ultimately, I did have the chance to screen it already, and I will be writing a review for the film. But just kind of my general clip notes with it is that it's endearing. It certainly has heartfelt intentions. But I kind of wanted a little more complexity from it. But yeah, I think it's enjoyable to watch, and I think that there will be an audience that really appreciates this film, and appreciates the romance and the character dynamics between the two main characters, Victor and Matthias. And yeah, I am appreciative, kind of like you said, Taylor, appreciative of the opportunity to have been aware of this film and to have watched it.
Yeah, it was not on my radar. It sounds like maybe it doesn't need to be, but it's I think a sophomore follow up,
It is
to
a sophomore
like
film.
a
Yeah.
decade later. So
Hmm.
it's always interesting to see how artists are growing like that. But yeah, maybe once that gets wider distribution, I'll be able to make some time for it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things with these films, like independent films. It's always nice to support them, and again, we're always very appreciative of this opportunity to screen these films. But yeah, it's also nice to be able to see these films go on to get wider distribution and to kind of make a mark in the mainstream when they're able to.
Absolutely.
So, tell me another one that you're interested in.
My second most anticipated is also very much described by those words like charming and nice to catch up with, all those sorts of things. And that film is called The Rossellinis. And it's described as a laid back journey in search of one of the world's most fascinating families, observed and examined from within its most intimate relationships, where the truth and depth of a memoir meet the ironic tone of an indie comedy. And anybody that's familiar with film knows Roberto Rossellini, who's one of the most renowned directors probably of all time, from Stromboli with Ingrid Bergman to Paysan and Germany Year Zero, Rome Open City, which has one of the most amazing cinematography sequences of all time, Journey to Italy. Thomas, you would love Rome Open City. It has an incredible cinematography piece that I know that you would be drawn to, even if you don't like the film itself. And then Isabella Rossellini is probably the other most famous part of that. She's voice acted in The Incredibles. She was in Joy, Enemy from Denis Villeneuve, couple different David Lynch films. Very storied career between them. So, little portrait of a famous family, kind of on their terms at a breezy-ish runtime of 90 minutes. That just sounds like a nice documentary for me to kick back with in a year that most documentaries have been very self-serious.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. I'm interested. This one has not been on my radar just yet, but that's kind of why we do this, is to highlight films that we're interested in and see if anyone else might be interested in them. I definitely need to catch up on my documentary game this year. Despite the fact that my favorite movie this year is a documentary. Sorry,
Which is one of the first documentaries you saw this year.
I
So
can't go a festival without talking about Flea. I'm sorry. It's my bad.
you're
but uh
lying.
but yeah,
And that
no.
is paid promotion by All Light Everywhere, directed by Theo Anthony.
I love that both of those documentaries come up in every
Just
conversation.
never
That's
going to
great.
shut up.
Probably not, at least not for the rest of this year, but I think we've
Yeah.
all accepted that truth.
Sundance better impress us next year. We better
Sundance,
get a couple more documentaries we love.
yeah, Sundance has it's set a high bar for itself, but I appreciate that Raindance is bringing these independent films, and that's a good one to keep on my radar. I'm gonna try to make some time for that.
What's your next most anticipated film that you haven't watched yet?
One that I'm very, very curious about is this film by Nacho Alvarez. It's called My Heart Goes Boom. This is another one that's actually available in the States now, currently on HBO Max. And I guess the synopsis says this film follows Maria, a bride who has fled her wedding, who dreams of always whose dream was always to dance. Maria becomes a star on TV's biggest musical and on TV's biggest musical and brings color to the gray Spain of 1970s. It just sounds like such a another one of those feel good kind of films, right? Like something that's really fun to watch. It seems kind of musically, and
Sounds kind of like that keyword of this video so far, charming.
charming, exactly. I think that's a really big theme, it seems, of the selection of films here. It's just being
Or our
charming.
selection of their
Our
selection.
selection, that's true, of the films that we've selected so far, is this like level this level of charmingness to them. And it seems like this is a film that has that. It looks vibrant, and watching the trailer, it looks upbeat and fun. And honestly, I've said this before, when it comes to film festivals, sometimes we need that as critics. We need that like lighthearted, fun, vibrant kind of film to break the amount of seriousness and the heavy thematic types of films that we tend to watch. So I'm very interested in checking this one out. I think that My Heart Goes Boom will be something that makes me that hopefully is enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it sounds very pleasing to watch, even if you don't like it. Like it's interesting to see why, and
Mhm.
it does bring up that interesting idea of like we are 50 years on from the 1970s now. So like how
Right.
much kind of nostalgia films like gosh, I can't remember the names of them, but Amazon Prime put out like a half dozen movies, it seems like, last year that were looking back at like the 1940s to 60s and just kind of like misremembering them and really over romanticizing them. Tessa Thompson was in one of them.
Mhm.
Rachel
Yeah.
Brosnahan was in another. And they're like these really like just television flat glossy looking pictures that don't really have any like cinematography depth to them, but they are just kind of all uniformly like misremembering and romanticizing. And I do wonder if we've kind of reached this point in time where the 1970s begins to be something that we over romanticize. And yeah, it's an interesting premise.
Yeah, that is a really interesting angle to look at it at. But yeah, we'll see how that turns out. Any other honorable mentions that you want to bring up that you think
Oh,
are worth talking about?
I've got a third most anticipated, believe it or not.
Yeah, let's do it.
This movie clocks in at 2 hours and 8 minutes, and it's called Miguel's War. I think it's the second or third film from this director, Elaine Rahab. And the film premiered at the Berlinale Film Festival earlier this year. And the letterbox synopsis of it is a portrait of a gay man who confronts the ghosts of his past. After fleeing war and repression 37 years ago, Miguel returns to Lebanon, where he traces hidden longings, unrequited love, and tormenting feelings of guilt. It's had a very positive reception at the film festival. Almost nobody's like actively disliked it from what I've been able to see. It's generally like positive, neutral to positive. And I'm sure that you're already thinking in your head, well, that sounds an awful lot possibly like Flea. So maybe this is on your short list now of things that you could try to watch. It is a documentary as well. So I just think it's an interesting story, especially because of just like Flea, this region where it's not permitted legally to be who you are, and then kind of coming to terms with that and reflecting on it decades later.
Yeah, this one wasn't initially on my radar, but I'm glad that you brought it up because it seems like Raindance certainly has an interesting selection of LGBTQ storytelling here at this festival. I know that that's certainly a category that a lot of festivals are trying to focus on and bring more storytelling to. But it's nice to see how how interesting these particular stories are at this independent film festival. I think independent film itself has a lot to bring to our cultural awareness, and so this sounds like a film that I think will contribute a lot to the selection and the variety of storytelling that happens at Raindance. And this is a really cool one to bring up. That runtime, that's a very daunting runtime, but I will imagine that it's worth every minute of the 128 minutes.
I won't imagine that, but I'll hope it. Did you have a third most anticipated, or should I get to a couple of films that I just want to plug for those that are available to watch them?
I do have a third most anticipated, and I
Tell
mainly
me what
picked
it
this
is.
one.
Put it on my radar.
Right. I picked this one because I was hoping that maybe my husband might be interested in it. He likes horror films, and so
That is a
the
fact.
that is a fact, a very strong fact. So when looking through the selection, something that I wanted to pick out something that maybe we could both watch and enjoy, and this one popped up. It's called "Where's Rose?" By director John Mathis, and it is a USA film. This is the international premiere, and it's a very breezy 83 minutes. um, but the synopsis says when Rose is found after going missing, only her older brother Eric recognizes that an evil force has returned in her place. Eric enters a deadly game of cat and mouse as he attempts to find out who or what has taken her sister's place. Um, and
I have a feeling we might see this at Slamdance.
I get the feeling, I get that feeling too. It reminds me, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the Irish film that You Are Not My Mother. So this reminds me a lot of the
I was
film
going to
You
guess
Are.
Feast.
Feast is another one that it's a very interesting kind of synopsis with this, kind of um paranormal spiritual takeover kind of thing. But Feast, You Are Not My Mother, this seems to fall right in line with those types of films. And I enjoyed Feast.
Is
I
this the
enjoyed.
only movie with any actor that was in Avengers? Because
It
I
might
feel
be.
like you picked it just because there's an actor from Avengers.
No, I picked it because the review says inspired by Guillermo del Toro's Pan Labyrinth.
Oh, I didn't realize that. You
Yeah,
should have led with that.
there's a review on the Raindance website that says inspired by Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth, and I'm like, sold.
That's
um
a wine bottle to the head.
yes. But it just seems like an interesting, really an interesting kind of premise and type of film. I think my husband is gonna like this because I think that he, even though he didn't have the chance to screen Feast and You Are Not My Mother with me, those are films that I think he would have really enjoyed. And so I'm interested in putting us both in front of this one and seeing what we think, especially with the fact that it's nice to support American-made film over in the UK.
Yeah.
And it has this really like this interesting context to it, I suppose. So
And if it's good, then, it'll probably have a long trajectory in the independent scene, kind of like
right.
a few others we've seen this year.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So those are my
All
three.
right. Should I plug a few movies that I know from what I hear are quite good?
Go for it.
All right. So from ForReel's own Taylor Beaumont, the film Beans, which premiered at VIFF, is also playing at Raindance. I know he responded very positively to it. A few other people that I know that have seen it also responded very positively to it. I think it's actually made in Vancouver. If not, it's made in Canada. And it's about a 12-year-old girl who's just kind of growing up in a rough situation, from what I understand. And we both didn't have time for it at VIFF because we both know how busy we were with that drive up and down across the border. But I think that if you have time and the ability to go see Tracy Deer's film, I think it's her longest runtime yet, and technically her second feature. But I think this is like the first time she's broken 80 minutes with the film. So I think that it's probably going to be a significant upstep from her previous documentary type style films. And the second film that I'd like to plug is a film that I saw at Tribeca. I don't know if you or Beaumont had the opportunity, but it's called Ascension. And I think it's one of the best documentaries of the year. It's in my top 10 documentary list. And it's basically about the quote unquote Chinese dream, like we think about the American dream. And it really shows the day-to-day monotony and genuine suffering of the Chinese people trying to make ends meet as they stand in line trying to get a job. And you hear over the loudspeaker, if you have tattoos, if you're this short, if you're not this race, if you have piercings, if your eyesight's bad, you're not allowed to have this job. Anyone who doesn't fit that can stay in line. And it's just one of the most brutal depictions of capitalism with communism you can really ever witness. And I think it's an immensely powerful film. So if you have the opportunity, I definitely encourage that one.
That's fascinating. I just looked it up, and I think I've glossed right over it because the image is of people in a what is this,
Lazy
like a
River.
lazy river. Yep.
Yep.
And that did not.
And yeah, I mean, even that's its own thing where you watch how hard these people are literally slaving away. And then they spend all their free money on this one Chinese holiday every 6 months or whatever to go do this one thing with their kids. Then they go back to this monotony and they take like all these selfies to make themselves look like they're having this great time. It's a damning look at contemporary China for the average person. It's very, very interesting.
Wow. All right. Yeah, I would have glossed right over that one because yeah, that cover image I don't think communicates at all anything that you
Right.
just said.
It's a directorial debut as well. If you're into
Nice.
those, it is a documentary, which you said you're trying to catch up on. But yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
if you just look at the cover, it's kind of like there's this great torrent happening, and all these people are being forced along it. Um, I do think there's a metaphorical power to the cover. I don't think it's a poor choice, but it does not convey how brutal it is. But it does kind of have the pop look where it's like
Mm-hmm.
everything is terrible and we're supposed to be having fun, everyone.
That's funny.
So those are the
Interesting.
ones that I would plug. Is there anything playing at Raindance that you've already seen previously during the festival season that you wanted to mention?
The one that I'm going to plug is because there's a lot of films that have played at previous film festivals that I've covered, and unfortunately, many of them I have not, or a few of them I have not seen. Like I want to see Mayday, and I think that was what was that, South by
I think that's
Southwest?
out now here.
Right, right, um,
Mayday, yeah, it was Sundance or South by Southwest. I can't remember which
right,
one.
right, exactly. So that's one that I want to see. I did see the Hill Where Lionesses Roar, and that was an interesting one to just like experience these characters, like and the conflict between these characters. I don't know if I personally took a lot away from it, but I think that there are a lot of people that can that might be able to relate with it, or that might be able to appreciate it. But I guess the other one that I'll mention that I just recently watched with the screener was the film called All Shorts. And I'm going to read the synopsis and try not to like tune out when I say it. But the synopsis says a lonely data entry clerk finds himself in this strange and bizarre office of Datamart, where he meets June, an incredibly fast filer. Together, they journey into the underground world of championship folder filing, um, where it'll take everything to make it to the top, alphabetically speaking. Um,
That
I
actually
get
sounds like an interesting comedy.
it does, it really does. And although I don't think that it gets as creative as it could, there's certainly a, again, charm. There's certainly a charm to how this particular story is tackled. It certainly has a feel good kind of nature to it, a very romantic nature to it, a very silly nature to it, and also a very self-aware nature. Like all those things come together in a way that is unexpected, I think. And I appreciate having had seen the film. And I think that there are a lot of people that will walk away from it feeling really satisfied with what was communicated, and what was portrayed in this particular
Yeah, it looks like it's a
endeavor.
sophomore film that
Mhm.
was 7 years in the making. So
Yeah.
that's quite the time span to go between. I suspect we'll see this at Slam Dance if it didn't already play there last year and I
Mhm.
missed it.
Yeah, I can
This just
imagine that
seems
for
very
sure.
much like the sort of thing that we might see later for American audiences that don't get the chance to see this. It's part of
Mhm.
Raindance.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's interesting. There's another film that I've seen, and I don't know if you saw as part of Fantasia um, earlier this year, and that is Shapeless, which
Oh,
is
Shapeless. Yes, that was fantastic. I didn't see it, but it was on my radar and I wanted to. It was just a very busy time, but I would
it,
love to get
it
around to
could
that
have
one.
also been at Tribeca. I can't remember, but it's the story of a singer from New Orleans, and it turns into this kind of downward spiral film where she's in love with someone and it's not quite reciprocal. And she's also got an eating disorder. It's a
Hmm.
very complex film, but it does do some very interesting formal things.
Hmm.
Very low budget with its lenses and just its cinematography of inanimate objects kind of becoming more informative of the mental landscape of the main character. And I do think that for anyone that's interested in like new developing modes of expression in cinema, there's something interesting happening there that's innovative enough to be worth your time, even though the film isn't great. There's an innovation that's worth paying attention to.
Hmm. Okay, interesting. If I have time, I'll get around to it because I feel like it was South by Southwest film. All these film festivals just
I
kind of
might have played
merged
there
together.
too. Yeah,
It was
we are deep in the year.
all these film festivals kind of merge together when you do all these, but we're appreciative of all the opportunities. But I do remember this coming up at a couple of film festivals, and unfortunately I haven't had the chance to watch it, but maybe Rain Dance will be the time that I can finally check it out.
Yeah. Um, just the last thing, there's something called Helmet Lockenman hyphen my way. I think that he's like a composer and it's got a very breezy runtime. I might try it out and just as a cursory watch. So that's an interesting film that I'm not super high anticipating, but I do think that's a composer that I've never heard of, a breezy documentary runtime. That's a great way to learn a lot about something without having to put really any energy in. So
Hmm.
that's one thing that I'm just looking at without the intention of writing about it or being a critic about it, but just trying to kind of improve my own understanding of the history of musical composition.
Yeah. Ah, that sounds good. Nice. Very
That's
cool.
everything that I have to recommend, plug that I'm aware of, that I'm tied into. I think that everything we mentioned is, well, everything that I mentioned, I can guarantee is playing on the Curzon home cinema platform for anyone that has access to that. And I believe Ascension's being distributed by MTV Films. So I think it's already out and available for most folks to watch. Are there any films that you did not address that are available to watch? I know All Sorts is still seeking distribution, so that's a tough one.
Right. Yeah. No, I think I mentioned where you could watch the things that I've mentioned here in the States. I'll try to include links or include tickets for if you're in the UK or if you're in the United States. What where you
Where
can,
we can seek those out.
yeah, where you can seek those out for sure. Because we really want to support these films and this independent filmmaking. So yeah, but the thing about these film festival, at least these preview videos, what's really fun about these is that we'll mention what films are most anticipated, and then get into the festival and then find things that we didn't expect or come across things or get recommended things
Mm-hmm.
during the festival, and it makes for such a fantastic conversation either mid-festival or after the festival. And we're going to try to schedule those things out and try to continue bringing coverage of our like live engagement with this Raindance Film Festival.
Yeah, our experience of independent titles that this far into the year we somehow haven't seen yet. I know that you and I are both like, how have we not seen bestsellers? Like, these are two of our favorite, most charming people. And I just didn't make time this year, even though it's been out in America for probably at least a month. That's just one of those things. We get into this awards season and everything's Dune, Eternals, Last Night in Soho, Antlers finally coming out from Guillermo del Toro as producer, and
oh
we
my
forget
gosh,
about
that
these
is coming out.
things.
Anyway, yes, you're right. It's guys, believe us, we have a very hard job here.
It's a real hard thing to
do. We have a tough job, but you know what? We're willing to make the sacrifices to make it happen. Anyway, Taylor, for Raindance coverage and all other content from Drink in the Movies, where can people find that?
They just go to drinkinthemovies.com. They click the festival button, and whatever the most recent festival stuff is that we've sent out will be right in that line, as you would expect. That's really the long and the short of it. You might have to scroll down because there are other festivals going on, I think, from some of our other writers that are contributing to the site. So there'll be some Blood in the Snow stuff in there as well, probably. So you might need to scroll down a bit, but you'll be able to find it.
Very cool.
How about you? Where can we find Thomas things?
Thomas things. Yes. I like talking about Thomas content.
You should go make that website, thomasthings.com.
Thomasthings.com. Yes, you'll find all the great things from Thomas. No, you can find our content at moviesforreel.net, for real spelled FORREEL. And I'll be posting content myself on there from Raindance, and so I'm excited to share my thoughts on films there. You can also connect with ForReel on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Movies for Real. And you can also connect with me personally on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, I guess, but Letterboxd is what I'm thinking of, at Being TSJ. So lots of different ways to connect and talk about stuff.
I'm confused. How do I find you on TikTok?
You don't. Don't find my TikTok. I just posted a TikTok today, and it was of the rain because Washington rains a lot.
Perfect timing for Raindance.
I guess that's a good point. How did I not make that connection? It's okay.
That's
It'll rain tomorrow and I'll try it again. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this, Taylor Baker. This is always fun to do, and hopefully,
it's a pleasure. I'll see you for a mid or end festival thing for anybody watching.
We will absolutely put another video together, maybe a couple videos together for Raindance. But until
hopefully then, when Matthew Simpson can join us.
Yes, he wasn't able to join this time, but he is also covering Raindance at awesomefriday.ca up in Vancouver. So check there for content from him, and hopefully we can have him on here another time. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, and until then, everybody out there, keep it for real.